you'll give it on 541.
Yeah, we're live.
All right, there we go. Folks, we're back again. This is Wednesday evening chit chat where we endeavor to bridge the gap between the Belizeans at home and the Belizeans in the diaspora. We also try to bring the Belizeans at home together and the Belizeans in the diaspora together. And once we get ourselves together, then we could get together with each other, right? I'm joined now by Mr. Gregory Morrison, one of our regular panelists. Of course, we're expecting George Mavitt sometime soon, and the provocateur extraordinaire, Mr. Leonard Brackett, should be with us too. George, good evening, sir. You got in your plug?
Good evening. Good evening.
All right. Quite a few things happening both locally and internationally, where I am and where you are. Now, where I am, that's some crazy stuff, boy. We
I
really
can
have to
see.
take a look at that. Where you are, you're trying to get what is it?
We're trying to get the Speaker of the House elected so that they
Yeah.
could have a Speaker for the House of Representative, and McCarthy, who's the Republican, has been coming up short 5 times so far. But I think it goes back historically that over 100 years ago they had some similar type of issues, and it took probably, I think, like almost 100 votes to, or 188 days to actually had the new speaker elected because of similar type of not able to decide on a speaker. So I don't know if this will go this long. I don't think people have that kind of tolerance anymore because the attention of people on things like this. In
What's
those
the
days.
option? What's the alternative?
Well, I don't think there's an alternative to the action, but I think things will take haste in some measure. Probably if it doesn't happen in a week, either he'll be forced to withdraw his position to be nominated, or they'll just find somebody that they could elect, because I think there'll be so much pressure on the public because of the news cycle, the rapid news cycle, that the Republican Party is going to start looking bad if they can't fill that position. They're going to start look very weak and incapable of governance.
But what gives him in it seem like Jan Saldiva here? What makes him able to stick in there? Doesn't he get the message? Don't you can't take a hint? Apparently, he doesn't have enough people to elect him, to enough votes to get over. Why does he keep trying? Is he going to try until he gets it?
Well, I think a lot of the vote that are going on right now, there are some real standoff issues that sets him apart from the true conservative, what some people have considered themselves the true conservative of the party, and him being um, playing with conservatism, they believe, because in many of the things in his governance, he doesn't show himself to be a true conservative. He's from California, so that would tell you that he has to have a little bit of not being that extreme conservative in his nature to be elected in California. But I think that he's going to face some issues, as it comes up with the conservative, and trying to get himself elected in the house there.
Do you think he will get elected eventually? Is he going to persist until he does? Uh,
Well, that's what I was saying. I think that the pressure will be such that probably in another 3 or 4 days
he will
that
give it up.
he will have to probably withdraw himself if he can't find a path. Because
Do they have other people? Who is he? The vote
oh,
is
there are other people. I mean, people haven't put, because he was so powerful and presumed to be so powerful,
uh,
and had been in the making for that position for some time. He didn't get challenged, and he's not getting the real challenge from potential people that could win right now. But I think once it shows that he's not electable, there'll be a lot of people throwing their hats in the ring. But right
Interesting.
now, because you see the way it's pretty much like you kind of mentioned, Saldiva. It's pretty much the person that's the leader is the person that goes out and do the fundraising for the party and get the other members elected. So a lot is owed to him by some of those other members that they wouldn't want to upset that balance right now.
Yeah.
Some of the more credible people that could govern and could take that position, so they have a lot of allegiance to him. But
But
i
you,
think
go ahead.
i think if it becomes clearer that he is not going to be elected, there'll be a lot of more credible people throwing themselves into the race that could be elected.
But I hear you saying that he has people who feel as if they owe him something to to support him, but apparently there are enough who does not want him there and don't owe him anything. Just a matter of time then.
Well, see, right now, because of the slim majority that the Republican won, I think they got 8 seats over the Democrat.
Mhm.
It doesn't give them much. There's always going to be
Wiggle room.
party differences, but
Yeah.
it doesn't give them much room to have disagreement. And so he needs 118 votes. And I think there's like 20 Republicans that's kind of blocking him. There's 15 of them that are probably persuadable to go to his position, but there's five that says never McCarthy.
Staunch. Yeah.
And if those ones, I think they said they need to move at least one of those five that says never McCarthy for him to get a path to to um
Interesting.
to
Interesting.
to be elected the speaker. So
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it, it is going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough sailing. He seems to have for a long time, been someone that I think the party had relied on. But this is not the first time he lost. Apparently, he lost to I can't remember the name of the guy that's no longer
Not
in the
Mitch.
no,
Is it?
not Mitch. Ryan, Paul Ryan.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's his name.
All
I
right.
think he lost to Paul Ryan at some point before he was trying to be the speaker, and he couldn't get the consensus of the rest of the party, and Ryan became the speaker for that period of time.
Well, hopefully he's going to get the message now then, because it can't be good for governance on a whole to have this kind of stalemate at that level of government, no?
Well, I think party. I don't think it affects the governance. Some people trying to make it thinks it affects governance. The governance of the United States is well taken care of by the president. He has a lot of um, executive orders and lots of controls
But
and
you to talk about the House, Gregory, the
no,
House.
no. But I'm saying in the governance. I'm talking in the administration of the country.
Right.
I don't think at this point it affects that kind of level. So I was speaking specifically about governance of the nation. So I don't think this stalemate is affecting that. It could,
Well,
it
that
could in some time if if I think they said because what this prevents also is the appointment of the House for the swearing in of all the new of the House, and so I think the House is not properly constituted because all the people that got elected in the last assembly, though in the last election,
they're
those
not
people
sworn in.
are not sworn in, and for some reason, I guess you cannot swear them in until you have a duly elected leader for the House, because I think he's the person, probably the person that is responsible for bringing them into the House.
That was an interesting scenario. I mean, it's worth watching because certainly we can learn from that. Though we don't exist under the same type of
Mhm.
Republican system, at
Right.
the same type of governance, no. But it looking from afar, it seems to me an interesting way of running a government. Let me put it like that. You're saying that the government is taken care of from the president's side, but
Yes.
with the type of bicameral system with a House and a Senate, and both these houses have power, have authority. and have a lot of responsibility when it comes to governance. So
Mhm.
I can't see it being business as usual with a house like that, with a majority of the house, the party that holds the majority not being in a cohesive way and not being decided upon who's going to lead them and who's going to take it forward.
Well, that is true. That is true. But the way the system is structured, it has the executive, right? So the president is the executive. He's responsible for the day-to-day administration of the government and through his administration and his cabinet. So the Congress and the Senate really plays a secondary role, more to balance, to counter, to pass laws and such, and not a direct role in governance. And that's why even I think when they make international visits and things like that, they try and get the consent of the White House and such to make those kind of things happen for them. So
well, not just for clarity, because you say that the president is the executive, but the House and the Senate, aren't they also a part of the executive?
No, they're not part of the executive.
Well, they're not the legislative, and they're not the
no, they're the legislative.
Oh, they're the legislative. They make the laws and whatnot. I see.
They make the laws. Yeah. So their role becomes very secondary. They also provide consent if on certain occasions.
Okay, yeah. They make the laws. All right. Yeah. Wonderful. Now, so let us look at our local scene here in Belize, because there's been some things, in particular on that New Year's Eve, a fateful evening, man.
Yeah.
The situation with a tourist being accidentally shot. How wide are the waves gonna ripple on this one?
Well, I think they said the last time an American was killed in Belize, and probably it was in San Pedro too, was the doctor that was shot.
By McAfee? Not that
No,
one.
not McAfee. No, in San Pedro, like 2019, I think there was a murder.
Well, remember there was a tourist that was one that was killed while at Chat Creek, or one of those resorts out west. Remember?
Oh, okay.
She was sunning and spine, and she was.
No, more recently there was a doctor, a male.
You sure?
Yeah. There was a male doctor like 3 years ago.
No, well, this happened less than 2 years ago.
Oh,
I'm sure, Gregory.
Okay, maybe there was someone else too. Maybe there was someone else
there was
too.
there was a reporter. She was a part of a media house in Chicago, I believe, and she came in. I'm pretty sure this was last year.
Okay.
I don't. I'm listen. Time is flying so fast, and there's so many things happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of tough to keep track anymore.
Oh yeah.
But this one, it's unfortunate because number one, San Pedro, of course.
Yes. Or tourist Mecca,
is the
right?
hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hub for tourism.
Yeah.
And well, you know, being that it's a young girl like that,
Yes. Young black woman. Yeah, young black lady.
you know,
yeah.
so it's kind of like tough. I think they're gonna.
Did she have family roots in Belize, or was she just
No, because that was a big discussion there, because her name is Boyne. And you know, we have a lot of Boynes in Belize.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, no, she had no family roots, and the relatives are just
Visiting.
came in to celebrate the father's birthday.
I see.
Let's welcome our good friend, Mr. Leonard Brackett.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Brackett.
The representative of the Commissioner of Police. Hi, Leonard, what's up?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr.
I thought you represented Mr. Saldiva.
Oh yes, you're right.
You know, see, I look like the man. I look like the man. I thought I was going to have a competition with you tonight because I see you dressed in blue, Mr. Morrison.
Yeah.
And I'm just in red, so I hope you not become political.
Oh man.
Well, how can we avoid that? And the man done the talk about Saldiva there. So you're gonna ruffle some feathers. Yeah. We think about the tourists killing in San Pedro.
My feathers are wet, Mr. Chairman, so I don't think you'll really get ruffled right now. You kind of wet. I got too much weather up this side. But the question that you pose, it's a sad trajectory for our country that not only just the tourists are getting hurt, which is bad for our economy because that spreads abroad negatively towards us, but our young people and just anybody, I mean, even kids. I mean, for decades now, we've been having this thing and it's just getting worse and worse. And the politicians, they keep promising that if we elect them, they're going to do better. And each successive government comes in and is only able to deal with the realities of this situation. And that is because they empower these people and let them feel like, okay, they can do what they want and to hell with it and nothing, no, there's no consequence or no accountability to be had. And the bottom line is that once you allow people to become of that mindset over a long period of time, it's hard to break. And they just...
In what way do they empower them? In what way do they empower them?
Police files can't be found. When they do find them, and wait, you asked the question. Let me finish, sir. The police records can't be found. Even that is when they can investigate. There are cases when nobody is on the police record because nobody is found or captured. And then there are situations when people just decide to take the law into their hands. You know, I mean, that is natural for human beings to react, you know, and behave all over the world. But we talk about this drug-related issue and about this and about these shootings.
Hold on, man, because
okay, go ahead. Sorry,
how do they empower them? How do the politicians empower the criminals? You're saying?
I'm going to explain to you, Mr. Chairman. The politicians depend on the criminals, and the criminals depends on the politician. This thing go back, like I was trying to intimate earlier, decades, and people are covering for each other. That is where I was going into even the police part of it. I mean, it's a bigger thing than what you and I, or the panel is currently discussing. And we cannot solve it. We can discuss it bits and pieces because, I mean, like I said, there are so many, literally hundreds of Belizeans over the last 3 decades that have been just snuffed out, you know, and some of them, I mean, there's no case. And when they do try to prosecute them, we have what, a 3% success rate? I mean, there's so many different angles to this situation about empowerment.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure though, because you might can tell us, because what you're pointing out are the obvious. You say the politicians empower them. How do they empower them? What do you think they do?
Okay, sir, I'll take it a different angle.
But not get condescending. Do not get condescending.
I was about to ask you a question since you're on this. You're on the grounds.
Right.
And I'm always being told by people who don't know otherwise that because I'm not on the ground, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You know, I'm just speculating or I'm just throwing out, you know. But let me go to the question. The issue of empowerment is that when these people commit their crime, there are high-level politicians in our country and high-level lawyers and high-level people in our society that aid and abet the continuity of this. It is, I'll tell you, for a matter of fact, that it was the legal community that put a foot down and stopped our government from hanging people. They got bought into this modernism about people who commit crime or who do murder should not pay with their lives. They should go to jail, and that if and when they are convicted, after all the other the other preliminary things prior to conviction. But if they're convicted, they're not supposed to. That is why partially we decided to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice as our ultimate court of justice, rather than to go along with the
Privy Council.
So you believe?
Yeah, the Privy Council, who used to tell us that we can't hang people or kill people anymore.
So you think
we thought that by going,
you think they are a hanging court? You think they are a hanging court? If we went there so that we could hang, but we're still not hanging. I mean, or we
That's
went
what
there
I'm
so we
telling you.
couldn't hang. We couldn't.
These people that commit crimes
right.
are committing crimes mostly on behalf of other people who have, levers that they can pull. And these other people that can pull the levers, when the crime is committed and the people that get caught, when they do get caught, and if they get tried and convicted, I'm going all the way, and convicted, they get all these special conditions where they go to court and then they get their stuff pleaded at the higher courts, and they get so many times to what do you call it?
Appeal?
Prosecute?
Appeal?
No, pass that. Like, they appeal, they appellate.
Yeah.
They go up to these different appellate levels, and at the end of the day, the lawyers haul and pull for this legal system in such a way that they get a lot of these people off. The ones that we do end up getting convicted, at the highest levels, we get them convicted. Like I said, there's so many crimes that are not even adequately investigated in our country,
So
much less prosecuted. It's a big ball of wax.
Let's open up that conversation again. Then that argument about the death penalty. Do you believe they should reinstitute the death penalty?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Why?
When people know that they are pay with their life, if they get caught, at least there's a sense of deterrence. When they know that they're not pay with their life, then just don't give a damn.
Yeah, the question though is that because of the fact that the justice system is the way you suggested it is, that you cannot rely upon it to deliver true justice, then doesn't that make it possible that you might be hanging innocent people? Don't you think many times they just grab people to satisfy the thirst of the
That is why we are where we are, for that same perspective that you conveyed just now.
Yeah.
The strongest perspective in our legal community. And it's all about money making.
Gregory, how you feel about the death penalty?
Well, I have a mixed feeling about the death penalty. I think it should be used in extreme circumstances. I think we have reached a point where people are taking so much lives, so much liberty with other people's lives, and with such disregard that there comes a point where it could be reinstituted to deal with these extreme situations. I have no problem with that. And I mentioned to some people, I have no problem with extrajudiciary measures either in dealing with criminals at this level, because we see how it destroys the well-being of the nation and it takes innocent lives. So I have no problem but I don't think it should be done by just a police force. I think it should be done, it should get sanctioned from the cabinet. I think it should be done with religious leaders' input, and it should be done with the cabinet, and also with a judge panel that kind of oversee and make sure that we're not making undue measures. But I have no problem with correcting this ship that seemed to be way off course and with so much criminality and misbehavior that's wreaking havoc throughout the entire nation.
I would be the first to say that I wouldn't like to have anybody, including myself, hang innocently, because that is a travesty.
Right.
Or would be a travesty. I'm talking about people who are found guilty and who go all the way through and they sit in jail and they have connections outside and are ordering killings on the outside. There's a whole lot of other things going on than we cannot really cover the whole subject in one program, especially. But yes, we can discuss it.
You also cannot cast aspersions without facts, no? Without
Mr. Chairman,
evidence.
Please.
I hear what you're saying.
Can I beg of you to take that one back, because I don't talk off the top of my head, sir. I never do.
I don't know that.
Please. Okay. Give me a chance then to convince you of what you don't know, that I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. because you're making the statement that maybe I'm not sure, or maybe I could be wrong. And like I said before, it is not a habit of mine to just open my mouth and willingly speak to subjects that I'm not familiar with or have any evidence or knowledge about.
But you can't give
I'd
the
rather
evidence.
just park on the side and listen and learn.
But you can't give the evidence.
Well, not in all cases can you provide evidence, because I mean, what
But
you're
if-
talking about then at
but
that
if you
stage,
can't-
sir,
if you
sir,
can't-
please,
sir,
please.
what? If you cannot give evidence, then you cannot state it dogmatically as if I know this to be a fact. That's what I'm saying, Leonard.
Okay, I agree with you on that.
So I
Because
mean,
what you know and what I know are may be two different things.
and you don't
Which
know
is
what I know, and I
what
don't
causing
know
the
what you
argument or
know.
the discussion.
Can
Which
we
is what
agree on
creating the
that?
discussion.
Can we agree on that?
Yes, sir.
You don't know what I know. I
100%.
don't know what you know. All right.
100%.
So let me
And
say,
somebody told me, don't tell somebody what you don't know.
Don't even try.
you know, let me say though, because I'm throwing that in there, but I personally also believe that the death penalty should still be on the books. They should, just like in corporal punishment in the schools, I think whipping should be there in extreme cases. You don't want to take advantage of it. You don't want to use it to abuse children and people. But at the end of the day, there has to be as a last resort. Something has to be there to be the deterrent, because we're looking at more than punishment, but at deterrence for future crimes that might be committed. And yes, nothing will stop a man from wanting to kill somebody than thinking that he will get killed in return.
Right.
Right? So,
Mr. Chairman,
sir,
even the parents nowadays can't speak too hard to their kids, which is verbal abuse and child abuse, much less whip their kid, according to our modern standards in our society and the legal situation. That is, that a parent can actually go to jail for abuse of their one kid.
Well,
They're turning the apple upside down. It's crazy.
I'm not too concerned about whipping children. I think that's a barbaric practice that probably I don't think the schools have the principals and the teachers and those people should have that kind of power.
power.
But should we find ways to deal with misbehaving children? I agree we should. And to tell you the truth, I haven't looked into that enough. What are some of the options? But I do know that it is an issue, and I know it is where a lot of the problems start. But a lot of these kids that act up like that deserve that kind of whipping, they come with a bigger problem. It comes with something from the home. Because, I went through all the primary school, and I think I got whipped in school like 2 or 3 times. And it was never because of something I actually did, but it was always something that provoked something, and then I reacted to it. You see what I'm saying? So there are cases where people are being hit in school that are innocent. And it's probably the same thing. Some people, and like Mr. Leonard said, could get caught up in a system that's not properly adjudicated, that are innocent and end up.
Well, I think the key, Leonard, Gregory, is that we have to, when we put people in authority, put people there who we can rely on to do the right thing. If they err, at least then they err with due caution, because they're.
You say that, but I've been in classrooms as a kid where I see teachers seem to have abused that ability, that power to hit people's children.
Go in in a bad mood and take it out on a child. Yeah, I mean, parents do it on their children also.
Sometimes the teachers they whip kids, and they're whipping the wrong kid because one other kid point out the one that's supposed to get faulted, and that's the one the teacher target, and then not knowing that that's an innocent person that's being preyed on. But I could tell you, I got whipped by a sister at St. Ignatius School. Okay, back in those days, it was normal for parents to allow teachers to discipline their children if children misbehave. I got whipped for something that I never even knew somebody else had done, and I was the person pointed out as being culpable for it.
Yeah.
Which I'm using myself as an example when I made the original statement to say that other people get victimized because of being preyed on by other knuckleheads in the classroom, and not only just in the classroom, in general in our society. How many kids or people have been shot at or the bullet hit them that was never intended for them but for somebody else? Constantly the trigger man go out there and say that, that was not the person that they actually was trying to target or whatever.
Man, most of the time they are numbskull. They just are idiots with a gun.
They're being sent out there. There are more powerful people than them who control them and who had sent them to commit crimes before and hold those crimes over their head and then send them to commit additional crimes. Some of those crimes are crimes that they are committing on behalf of paid agents. Okay, people pay money to kill or to have other people.
Let's welcome George to the show.
Good evening,
late.
George.
Happy
New Year to all the members of the panel, by the way.
Just write 100 times, I will not be late.
Again, it's a SCAD or the puzzle?
No, it done out light already. But George, we're talk about in the wake of all the stuff that's happening here in Belize, no? The severity of the crimes, about maybe reinstituting the death penalty. What's your take on it?
Well, I believe it should be reinstituted, but there's obviously the need to tighten up on the system. Pleasant good night, everybody, and Mr. Chairman, apologies and general apologies for being a little tardy. I was out on the road and I couldn't make it back in time, but excuses are what they are. Right. But certainly, Mr. Chair, I believe that it should be reinstituted, and I'm saying that because I would probably defer with the psychologists and those people in the criminal justice system that the death penalty is not a deterrent. I think it's an abuse of common sense to start to say that if I know that I go and kill person X and I know that there's no death penalty, I would probably have less of a resistance of killing person X. But if I know that when I kill person X, that the death penalty was a possibility, common sense would say that I would need to tread with greater caution.
Right.
I think that a lot of the narrative that says the death penalty is not a deterrent is based on the fact that I think that most people think that the people who are mentally compromised would not care one way or the other. But I'm saying that it's not everybody that is mentally compromised would be the set of people you consider. People who kill are not all mentally compromised. And so for a rational person who would kill, he would have second thoughts of killing if he knew that the death penalty was a possibility. Nobody wants to die, really.
But not only,
and I think that this whole argument needs to be revisited.
Not only that person would think again, but the other person who might think about doing it later on down the road, if knowing that somebody got executed as a result of taking a life, might even think twice about picking up something that will cause death. So
that's the way it used to be in the old days.
Yeah,
that's why we long for it.
The thing is that if the cold-blooded execution that we saw, that was being said, if a person like that, I don't think if that happened and we know who did it, that person cannot allow it to exist in society.
You get the right lie, sir. You get the right lie, sir, and the man constitutional rights prevail above that of the one that's dead. In other words, you're dead and gone, so the living one gets protected.
We know that is what it is, and we know that exists there, but we're talking about making sure that people that are danger to society be removed from society, and removing them and locking them up and getting them on plush existence, costing the taxpayers money. I am with George on this one. It doesn't weigh out in favor of the people at all. The
man in Sidonga back there in the jail, and then the other killing out there. They are the hardened criminal that run and control the outside world.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
see,
exactly
again,
right.
And they don't play. They don't play.
Yeah.
If their orders are not carried through, then will order somebody else to take out whoever was supposed to have done the job.
Yeah.
That's the way. It's not a system that thinks like how we, the average person on the street, would think. It's a
Yeah.
complete different mindset.
yeah.
That's
Go
why I
ahead.
said about 8 and a bit. That's what I was coming from when I said 8 and a
One,
bit.
one of the problem I see though that could be dealt with even before it gets to that is to deal more harshly with illegal gun possession, because it seems to be flowing around in the streets. Just you could get a gun at every corner, it seems, and,
But
and I'm
Greg-
thinking that probably they need to make sure. I know they had passed some pretty tough laws under the Barrow administration that locked up even grammar, and I know people screamed about
That
it.
was crazy. That was totally out of
Yeah, that's why I said that there needs to be common sense. It needs to be common
Exactly.
sense. But we need to set laws that will deal with people that have guns and ammunition, so that they get 10, 20 years
Gregory,
mandatory prison sentence.
Greg, it opens the door though for the kind of misjustice that was happening with that tough law. See,
Yeah.
I'll tell you how I see that. You could bring 1,000 guns to my house. I've always had a gun. I don't brandish my gun. I don't go out there go try shoot nobody with my gun. Even if I have a contention with somebody, I'm not going to run for my gun, but I want to know if I in my house and I hear somebody broke in, having a gun in there is going to help.
Yes,
So
exactly.
definitely.
my problem is with the high-powered rifles. My problem is with guns that are assault weapons used for combat. That
Exactly.
is ridiculous. But just a handgun for protection, it is said that the only thing can stop a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun.
you sound like you're running for the the RRA.
Republicans.
No. I am not.
The Rifle Association.
No, because I'm against
No,
high-powered rifles.
I'm just messing with you.
No, I think that because that's the problem what we have. We try to put a blanket over it, and it's not cut and dry like that. It's not having a handgun for protection is different than just having an assault weapon.
But I'll tell you something. If you have a right to a gun, I don't care what type of gun it is. It could be it could be a rifle, it could be an assault weapon. If that's your choice of gun, that's fine. It's the use that I'm concerned about. It is the people that have it illegally that shouldn't have it. But if someone choose to have a assault rifle and they have the proper licensing for it, I don't have a problem with that. That's not an issue.
Well,
I don't know. Go ahead.
I think there's the arithmetic of it, though, Mr. Morrison, in the sense that a guy that has a pistol with 6 or 7 rounds versus a guy with a semi-automatic with 50 rounds, the level of damage that could be done with a crazy with a pistol with 6 versus an assault rifle with 50 rounds, you can see that there's a need to pause and take stock of what it is that you're doing. Because if you're saying that public policy gives you the right to bear arms, then you would definitely want to make sure that the guy that has the right to bear arms with a high caliber submachine gun or machine gun fully automatic machine gun goes through a rigorous test. I think that when you look at various countries, when you look at the United States versus Britain, and you look at the mass killings that are attributable to gun violence, you would know that the Brits are in a much better position, and most of the developed countries are in a much better position than the United States. You see, so I think
it doesn't feed that criminal mindset.
That applies to the United States. That's not my argument. I'm talking about beliefs.
Well,
Even in the United States, I don't have a problem with people legitimately and legally having a gun. And I have no problem, even in the United States, with background check and disqualifying certain people from having that gun whether it be a pop shotgun or a assault rifle. If they're not qualified, they don't meet the qualifications for it because of mental, because of domestic, because of other problems they have had with the law.
But then how do you get over the Second Amendment?
Huh?
How do you tread on the Second Amendment then?
No, because they
According to these people, I'm not
they don't have the
I'm not
right.
defending it, right? I'm just
No. I'm saying they don't have the legal right because they're disqualified for any of those reasons that I mentioned.
But
the Constitution does not. They will take it to the Supreme
No,
Court,
the
and the
Constitution-
Constitution does not specify those points.
No,
You and I,
okay,
as rational, agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. But I'm saying to you, how do you? Sorry.
But you're
sorry.
arguing a mute point. There are laws on the books in every state that deny certain class of people from having possession.
And
of
they
weapons.
constantly get struck down.
No, that does not get.
They
struck.
constantly get struck down by the Supreme Court, which is why
People
every
that
time
are felons in every
the
state.
people
do
try
not
to
have-
avoid having to go to the Supreme Court over gun laws, over gun issues, because the Supreme Court is not tolerable, and especially the ones that we have today. It has
That's
never
not
been
true.
tolerable.
That's not true. That's not true. People that are felons in every state are denied the right. What have been
Over the last 50 years,
what have been come in contest recently was the age limit, whether you could have a gun at 18 years old, because we have found that a lot of the people that have guns and have been unstable and carrying out these crimes are people that have not developed a sense of maturity.
Well,
Mr. Morrison, but if are we going to be talking about Belize or the United States? Because on the United States, yes, sir. On the United States, I'm saying to you, the Second Amendment does not stipulate or qualify the variances that you and I are discussing or that people try to interject.
You're
It's a
telling me
core
that,
hard fact. I'm
Leonard,
sorry.
Leonard, you're telling me that, and I accept that. But I'm saying still, the states have set limits on.
And the Supreme Court have struck them down. Every time they go to the Supreme Court with those type of cases, they get struck down.
No, they do not strike down.
Over the last 50 years that I've been around in this country, close to 50
They have not
years,
struck down
I'm
that
telling
you're
you
a
that
felon, you cannot
I have
have
followed
a gun.
those kind of situations, and but legal wise, okay. The Second Amendment, they hide behind it, and they abuse the Second Amendment.
You've said that. Listen to me.
Don't lose sight of the broader argument, though, that people with lethal weapons cause more havoc to society than those without.
Yes, by far.
Of course,
By
people
far.
with guns
Whether you're
cause
in
more-
Belize-
people with guns cause more havoc to society than those that don't. So
Well, that is exactly
Well,
what
I
I'm
know
saying.
some people who could use machete and cause a hell of a lot of havoc too.
exactly, and that used to
No,
be
no,
the
no, no,
preferred-
no,
that used to be
no.
the preferred tool.
But
in
I understand the
Belize.
point. The point
no.
is very well stated.
No.
and clear.
Somebody with a machete will not shoot down 100 people from a window in Las Vegas. Somebody with a machete.
No, but I could tell you, somebody with a sword could walk through one whole crowd of who on celebration days, like for the 10th of any other, and wipe out 100 and more.
No. Your argument
Okay,
is
I could tell you that.
flawed. Are you saying that a submachine gun and a sword are equally lethal?
No,
Okay,
please don't
very good.
misconstrue my
I am not
my
misconstruing.
my
I'm
point.
trying to get you to qualify the fact that there are weapons. with
I'm not in
a
disagreement with your
certain
qualifications, sir. I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm just reinforcing
I
the
didn't want to
fact
get
that
into
criminal minds operate criminally, and some people.
Yes.
Anyhow, I think.
I didn't want to get into the
Don't go
gun.
there. I am saying that there are criminals. You know the argument of the NRA is that guns don't kill people. People kill people. And I'm saying, but if you take that argument across the
people
globe,
with guns.
guns kill. Yeah, people with
It's not the gun that kills the people. It's
it's
people with guns.
It's people with guns who kill people. If you
The
take
mind.
that argument across the globe, you will see that people with access to guns in country X that has greater access than country Y that doesn't have that level of access. You will
I
see
agree
that
too.
the country that has greater access creates more havoc and entropy. That's the point that I'm making.
But you
Very
know,
true.
our argument
Very
is not that. We understand that gun control is an issue, and in societies where there are more guns, there are more crimes. In societies where there are more guns, there's more death from guns. So that's not the argument I want to have. That's not the argument.
Here in America, the issue of guns is more about money making than anything else. Okay,
The good shit about guns is money everywhere, because those countries, when they
that's
get the
what I'm
gun, they
saying.
sell it.
That's an obvious. Let me say though that I think that part of the qualification should be, what do you plan to do with this gun? If you have a gun for self-defense, you don't need a high assault weapon. If you're going to war, you need that. But you're saying, Gregory, you don't have a problem with them having a high assault weapon, but you would have to prove to me, what, you're going on hunting? That's not even fair. That's ridiculous.
No, because for me, a gun is a choice. The choice of gun that a person have is up to him. How they use that gun, whether
Yeah,
they
but
qualified. Let me finish. Whether they are qualified through whatever measure we use to measure that qualification for them to have that gun. I'm not saying everybody is entitled to a gun. That's not what I'm saying. Only some people should have it.
But how are you going to tell that? Who makes that, passes that judgment?
How will you tell it? People disqualify themselves. Everybody's qualified to have it until they disqualify themselves with either prior action, their state of mind, their behavior, and their past
but people
action.
change, Gregory. People change.
Yeah, but you can't. But if you were crazy before, I don't want to give you a gun because you're not crazy anymore.
Well, if you committed a crime before,
yes, that too.
You've reformed. You still
no. If you committed a violent crime before, if you went and
you have that propensity to return to that same point of state.
Yeah. If you committed a crime that we could see that was a social crime, you went and I don't know. I don't think like a criminal. So
actually, I think the problem is the environment that creates a person that is willing to go out there and kill somebody. Because and the point that Leonard make also is valid, that you could do it with a sword, you could do it with a piece of 2x4, you could do it with a brick, and you can't be outlying all those things. Right. But you must look at the environment that what creates a monster that can go and do something like we see that guy did on that videotape. Just put 2 bullets in a man's head, go in at the house, shoot some more people, come out and put 2 more bullets back in at the man's head. What kind of monster creates somebody that does that? And that's why we need to look at the mindset that goes there. Yes, go ahead.
May I speak to that point? What creates that kind of mindset, sir, is just like I was intimating earlier when I first joined the conversation. It's about enabling this particular individual that we're now commenting on. Was presumed to be a member of the police force at some point. Therefore, he had training, which would mean that, as Mr. Gregory was saying, because he had training, he should have been entitled to have a gun and use a gun. No,
I have to make this clear, because we're not talking about no individual. I'm talking about what we saw on that clip, not because we don't know yet. That person is not, and this is the problem, part of the problem we have, but we have not convicted anybody yet of doing that, so we cannot say that, Leonard. Right. You see my point?
Right.
I think
I am going, let me restate.
And you know more than we do, of course.
I am going based on what I saw, that the
video.
Yeah, the videos. There are more than one video.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I'm going based on what I saw with my own eyes.
Right.
Okay? So I'm alluding to the fact that anybody that has that kind of mindset and that displays exactly as you are questioning, that kind of attitude towards the society at large or to any other human being. Okay?
You're saying
it's a cold killer.
You're saying what I'm saying, but you're still not understanding what I was saying.
Yes, but because you don't make I finish my point when you ask the question.
Man, well, if you take all day, you could say anything we want to say.
Okay, but I was trying to explain how somebody that has that. Okay, let's look at the gentleman's background then. Let me explain to you why my man is.
No, I think we shouldn't bring the gentleman.
Okay. So you don't want to understand.
No.
The reason for the question
No, but no,
No,
Leonard.
The rationale that predicates the
listen,
question.
listen. Stop being defensive and try to understand what we're saying. You cannot cast aspersions like that. You cannot be just throwing allegations that you cannot prove right now. None of us can prove. We don't
Sir,
know who did it.
I could prove.
Yes, there are
I could prove what I see. I can't prove what I don't see.
But we don't know.
I don't depend on somebody else. I said to make a conclusion, a conclusive statement.
We don't know who that individual is. Nobody knows.
We know his history. Did you hear the commissioner's? Wait. Did you hear the commissioner's stipulation when he was interviewed? Do you know anything about that gentleman prior to this particular situation here? I do.
You can't put those two together. I don't care what you know.
Yeah, you can't.
Which is why you have lawyers.
No, but
those are the things that lawyers argue before a judge in court.
Leonard,
calm down.
Leonard,
One is saying yes, the other one is saying no.
Leonard,
calm down. Do not lose sight of the bigger picture. The bigger picture goes that 99.9% of Belize and Belizeans everywhere in the diaspora included were kind of outraged at this callous and brutal slaying of the Ramnaresh brothers. We don't know.
That is not the only callous killing in Belize. We have dozens and dozens of situations where
but they're not even saying that. Wait, man, hold your horse.
There's a mindset that causes that to happen.
I'm saying that most people were outraged and shocked at what they saw.
So,
from a public policy standpoint,
I agree with you on that. So was I.
The government of Belize needs to play a role, and that role should be to protect the citizens. It does not mean
First and
that
foremost,
everybody will be killed. But from a public policy standpoint, we must make sure that people do not have free access to guns. And I think when I joined the conversation, Chairman was kind of making the point that guns are kind of freely available in Belize. There's no problem with getting a gun. A guy died, I think last night or yesterday, because he basically sent a tweet that basically it's a kind of dubious tweet. But
where did that happen?
That happened right here in Belize.
Oh.
There was a death that happened New Year's Day, and some guy sent a very dubious tweet. I saw the tweet, and somebody sent a tweet back to him to say, you will be dead before this guy is buried. And he was shot yesterday.
Wow.
So that is the point that I think Chairman was making, is that why
but those people are not having guns. These people that are acting like this, are they having legal
guns? Whether they are licensed or not is another thing.
Well, that's what I was saying. There needs to be a penalty, a stiff penalty for the illegal possession of guns. That was one of my first statements.
I agree with you.
Leonard, let me go.
Mr. Chairman, I had gone just now. Wait, I had gone just now.
Hold up.
Sir, wait. I had gone because I was trying to.
Calm down.
Wait, sir. Wait.
Calm down.
Listen to me then for a second.
I
had disappeared just now because I pushed the wrong button. I was trying to cut off my mic or mic silencer. I pushed the leave the scene, and that's why I had gone off this thing for a while. That's all I'm trying to explain to you. I'm not trying to stop you from your question.
We didn't miss you. We didn't miss you.
Okay.
You're an annoying fellow, man. Serious. I hate to say.
Leave the man alone, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
I'm just messing with you, Leonard.
A good conversation,
the diplomat on the show. But,
I know, but you just this man.
I know.
He doesn't let anybody speak, man, and it's unfair.
That was just an opening I couldn't resist, man.
I know. That's all right.
I was just messing with you, Leonard.
That's all right, sir. No problem. That's part of the
I think the discussion of guns has to be had, like the discussion about the penalty has to be had. These we should not just lock this up and say, all right, a few of us have decided this is the way it should be. That's it. No, we should have it and argue this thing through until we come up to a solid consensus and an informed point of view. Well, we know that what we're doing is the right thing.
I'll tell you what will always prevent it from getting to conclusion, because some people believe that you should restrict the ownership of gun. I do not believe that you should limit the ownership of gun, because then you create a whole different class of people. What disqualifies people from having gun, as I said, is their character, their behavior of the past, their intent, and such.
But you're assuming then there's only people with that kind of character and intent is gonna use a gun. And
Well, you have a
George is
gun.
saying,
Are you going to use your gun? Are you going to use your gun in a wrongful way?
and no, I
you'll
hope
use it
never.
to-
I hope
yeah,
not.
You'll use it to defend
I would
yourself
hope
and
not.
your family.
Even if I feel right in doing it, I would hope that I can resist and not do it, because
Exactly.
a
Exactly.
person, a normal person, killing somebody else, it
Yes,
certainly can't be something easy to deal with.
Right.
And so the point is, though, that if you have to, and at the end of the day, if it's you,
It's a last resort to defend yourself. That's how I see
But
it.
I'm saying I don't see why anybody would need a semi-automatic, automatic, high-powered rifle to do that. I mean, that is what I would
But that's
restrict.
not, that's not
Mindset,
what killing
Mr.
people.
Chairman.
That's not what killing people. It's not the fact that these bad guys that shot up the Jaguar area in San Pedro that fired 20 shots, and so probably we don't know whether it was the first bullet he fired or the last bullet he fired that hit the young lady that killed her.
What about the fact that if he never had the gun, that would never have happened?
If he
What
didn't
about
have
the
a
fact that
gun,
he
if
never
he
had
didn't
a-
have a gun,
if he
that
never
would not have
had-
happened. But
Yeah,
that
what
does
about the
not-
fact
but
that
he
if he
had,
never
he
had a
had
gun,
an illegal
that
gun.
random killing would not have happened? What about
But
that?
he had an illegal gun. I don't have a problem with gun ownership.
No. Well, I would have to respectfully disagree with you that there should be unimpeded access to guns. I think that there
Do
needs to
you
be
own a
limit.
gun? Do you own
There
a gun?
needs to be a limit to the type of gun that you own, and there needs to be a limit to the amount of guns in the possession of private citizens. But
Wow.
that has to go with something.
Mr.
That has to
Mavid,
go with
Mr.
the fact
Mavid,
that
do
the
you own a
state
gun?
cannot protect you.
Mr. Mavid, do you own a gun?
I do not own a gun, sir.
Okay. Well, see, you just bar yourself. You set the own limitation on yourself, and that doesn't
No.
mean you give you the right to set it on others that may
No.
want to have one and have
No,
the
no.
legal and constituent right to have one.
But that's a flawed argument in terms of what we're trying to reach, because I am saying that I have made a choice not to own a gun.
But that's your
I am not
choice.
necessarily saying that you shouldn't own guns. I am saying that the guns that you own should not be a weapon that can cause mass casualty destruction.
But what the difference make if you don't use it?
Well, what if you use it? The problem is not if you
No,
don't
but
use it. The
but-
problem
but
is if
the
you use
people
it.
that are using it are not the people that are.
There's
that are-
something that we call the precautionary principle.
Oh, come on now! Don't give me no
I
principle.
keep saying that this guy that killed all of those people in Vegas, I think it was 100 and odd people he shot from a window.
Yes,
in
I
Vegas.
remember
This
that
was a
guy.
sane
I
man.
remember
This
that
was
guy.
a sane man.
Yeah.
But he's
And,
not
and
the
he
only one.
and he
He
had
qualified
three
to
machine.
own
He had
those
three,
guns.
and he had three machine
Qualified
gun
to own those
stations.
guns. But
Yeah.
I do not believe that he should have qualified to own X amount of guns of that caliber. And so I am saying that I respectfully disagree with you
Mr.
that
Chairman.
there should be no limit on gun ownership.
Jump in there, jump in there.
Okay. Criminal mindset. The criminal will acquire these weapons, whether they are legal and or illegal.
That's my point. That's my point.
At the end of the day, yes, sir. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to point out, and especially because I'm trying to target my comments to believe in specifics, because the problem in America cannot be solved even by the Americans. I've been here 50 years now, and I could almost tell, well, not exactly 50, but close to 50. And I could almost tell that from the time I left Belize, I was a knowledgeable person about weapons and understood, in other words, I was a sensible person, sensible enough to realize that what was going on here when I came to this country and figure out what was really happening compared to the movies then where we see man get killed and then man get up and go and start another movie and craziness. It's all about the mindset. And I want to go back to Belize as my comment. In our country, we have people who have developed this attitude that I did it already, and I could do it again. There was no consequence, and I don't expect to have no other consequence if I end up to have to do it again.
Right.
The problem is that these guys, initially when they started this drug war, okay, back in Belize in the 80s. Prior to the drug war in the 80s, we had issues in the 60s and the 70s, which then blew up in the 80s because of territory. Everybody wanted in one territory and covered in one territory and stop other man from coming on deal and selling off in territory. And, it start from a small thing and then it grow big. And then then see any small man there start get hired by the big man there where they bring in the plane load of thing them, or they bring in other drugs and other stuff. Then they hire the young boy as foot soldiers, so to speak. They go out there and help them pick up their stuff from half of the sea, which is why you find that so much people go up and see and don't return. They happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Stick to the point, man. Stick to the point, and you're trying.
I'm saying that a lot of these things that is going on in Belize is because man go pick up other man drug and go try to sell it back to the same man and don't realize that the same people and try to sell it back.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
I would believe that you should know that, Mr. Michael. I know that.
No, I don't. I really don't. And I'm
a lot of people in Belize know that.
No,
who are paying attention.
A lot of people think that. A lot of people.
Oh, I think. Okay.
Let
me leave the thinking alone. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I would just say.
Make us stop open up the mouth and talk on subjects where other people don't know that I want to argue with them, but what I know, I don't know. Make us leave that alone.
I just wanted to identify with the point that you made that people who kind of own guns, I think inferentially you're saying that it leads to chaos, and that is what I am thinking. That based on what Chairman basically, I think his initial premise was that should we or should we not ban the death penalty? I believe that the
I think that's where we're supposed to go back and continue finish that discussion because we never finished it.
Yeah, I think that the way the discussion has been going is that yes, you want to look on it because of the callousness of these crimes,
yes,
and because of the frequency, and a lot of that is related to guns. And where I want to get in is to say that if you want to deal with the issue of the availability of guns, then you have to go back to the drug trade. So
yes,
it's bigger than just the availability of guns. I think there are underpinnings of the social issues, and one of the social issues is really poverty. A lot of the guys who have a gun in their hand, they are not born criminals, but a lot of them are in a situation.
They never buy their one gun. Somebody else provided for them to go and do the hit.
They are not employed and they are not employable. And so they find themselves boxed into a situation where they themselves become victims of the whole gang culture. And that is what society needs to fix.
You're tying two issues together, though, George, but you brought up an example earlier about that guy who threw a text and just threw a text out there, and because of the text got killed.
Yes.
Where did drugs tie into that murder? Because what I'm trying to show you is that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
Yeah, what I'm trying to show is that when you put it like that, as if all right, that the drug trade, you have to go back to the killing is not exclusive to the drug trade. The killing is a mindset where a person develops a mindset to kill somebody else. That is not common. Not everybody get that. They're not a lot of people.
But it's too prevalent in Belize.
I want to kill somebody. It's of course one would be too prevalent. Yeah, of course.
I agree with you.
There's somebody now put something on the screen as you see. What's the purpose for the killings? Power, money, turf, division, drugs. There are a lot of different
all of the above.
Jealousy. I mean,
all of the above.
Domestic
violence. To answer the gentleman's question or the person's question, I would say all of the above. Everything the person stated there are some of the are either part and or all of the different some of the reasons why we are where we are today. But I would say more than anything else is because we've been led down the primrose with a bunch of messed up minded people who could have done better for us and did not do better for us.
Well, we could find scapegoats.
Accountability. Accountability is very important.
We can find scapegoats. That wouldn't be hard.
I go back to the point, respectfully, Mr. Chair, to say that the lethality of the issuance of a threat and the delivery of that threat is definitely becomes more relevant when you have guns involved. And this is why
can I jump, Mr. Mabit? Mr. Mabit, can you give me permission to jump on what you just said just now?
No. But,
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, right there on that very point. For example, a person wrote something commenting on this criminal act that occurred and was threatened and eventually was shot.
24 hours after.
No, was it the person that had committed the original crime, which was commented on, that we could actually believe was available out here on the streets to commit their second crime, to kill or take on the person that had made the comment? No. Somebody else did that extra job. And I'm saying to you, it's a mindset, but the mindset is prevalent. And people are sitting behind jail, like I said earlier, and Mr. Mabit comment just gave me the opportunity to elucidate this point that I was not out of my records when I said I know for a certainty of some of these things that are happening. From 1972 until today date, I have been doing an annual survey of my country in different areas. And therefore, when I speak to these issues, it's because I'm speaking to them not on emotion or just because I have a pair of lip on my face.
Leonard.
In the first place, I shouldn't even speak to some of these things because there are consequences, just as in this particular case where Mr. Mabit stipulated.
But don't. Let me say, first of all, I'm impressed at your knowledge of history. But you use it.
Every year I do an annual survey, Mr. Chairman.
Like a drunken man uses a lamppost. not for elimination, but for support.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Let's go. Listen to me.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know.
Good comeback, Mr. Chairman.
No, see.
Good comeback.
Mr. Chairman, let me just say something about the drunken man and the lamppost.
Yes, yeah.
Who is the victim?
Mr. Mabit.
Also the drunken man.
Yeah, Kwame Tori said that the drunken man, when he said fire, the house step on fire. One of these days, you'll be right.
One of these days.
Yeah, but Mr. Chair, what was your point? Because what I'm trying to say, Mr. Chair, that the violence and death, gun violence, especially as it relates to the level of mortality visited on young black men in Belize, is really a crisis.
Yes.
And it needs to be solved. But you can't solve this crisis by just focusing on guns. You have to try and solve the crisis based on the culture of what gets guns into the hands of these guys.
That's correct.
And the culture that gets them in there is really the drug trade. So
but I think it's more than
unless you depart the narrative that, that's not free problem, and then people are states they like cocaine, unless you depart that and realize that we are a stakeholder, but we are also a victim, then you can't solve it. It's as much of a problem as it is for the United States.
But I think again, though, you shifted it over to where you're saying that the drug trade, that gets the guns into the hands, but guns get into people's hands that don't kill other people. What makes a person develop a mindset that I will go and take your life? It's not something that
I think the drug culture generates that. I
don't know. I think again you're seeking for a scapegoat.
No.
It's a lot more than that.
Because I think the drug culture is always in competition, and their quickest way.
It's a contributing factor.
Their quickest way
if we look only on that, we're gonna miss other particulars that is
nobody's saying, Mr. Chair, that it's a black and white issue.
Well,
I want to hear Mr. Morrison.
Like
I want to hear Mr. Morrison's conclusion and his thoughts on this particular issue.
Let's go, Greg.
Yeah, I do believe, as I was saying, the gun culture, the drug culture is what contributes to the behavior and the thinking that if you get in my way, I'm going to take you out, because that's the practice of that entire psyche thinking of those people, that if you get in my way, I'm going to eliminate you. And so that practice of people just being wiped out is because of that specific type of thinking, I believe.
Do you think
What- what-
that if we get the drugs out of the way and the guns out of the way, that this is gonna solve it? Let me say-
because
let me finish this. Let me finish this
Okay.
thought. In the beginning, there were 4 people. One killed the next one. It's
No, that's what I was gonna say.
Back then, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There is in our culture, there is particularly in Black men, and something I see in Belize that was not there. That people just hate each other. You know what? I think
we're
we've
having some
become more-
technical difficulties.
Oh, I think we have become more insular. You see, in the past, when people used to get out and have to go and socialize and stuff like that, and it was the regular and the only means of communicating and interacting, people used to behave more civil. But now that you could stay home and watch TV in your own quarters and have almost everything that you want, people are able to act more irrational and more brutal, and feel that they don't have to go over there, and therefore I don't have to deal with you, so I could deal with you the way I want to deal with you. So I think there are lots of things that socially contribute to why we have become the way we are in terms of interacting and having normal relationships and behavior patterns.
It's
Well,
cowardice.
I want to say that from the standpoint of Mr. Chairman, in terms of the issue of whether or not we remove guns and drugs from the table, whether that would solve the problem, I would say from the standpoint of science, when you look at the data, what we would have to say is that let us look at the death rate before the drug culture took hold, and let us look at the death rate when the drug culture has taken hold. And you will note that the percentage mortality from gun violence was much less. Not only less people were killed, but the rate per 10,000 or per 100,000 was much less. Now that the drug culture has taken hold, the lethality rate has gone up astronomically. And I just wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Morrison was saying. Basically, the way it works, G-Mike, and you have been here long enough, and Mr. Brackett has been here frequently enough to know that each gang has a territory, and that territory is defended by guns.
Mhm.
And a lot of the killing that takes place is when one person from era X, it could be the same gang, strays into era Y. That person will be taken out without prejudice. That person will be killed. And that
How
is
did
why
they get there? How that mindset got to that
and
point?
140
Was the chairman's
because
question
people
original
are protecting their
earlier?
own territory. There's an economic argument to be had that if you come in on my territory and you try to sell drugs, you are cutting in on my profit. You see, so the drug culture, the drug,
You
another
know,
one says it's a culture.
It certainly is a contributing factor.
Mhm.
Let me purport a theory here, because I believe as social beings, we're naturally there's friction, that's not a part of our whole being. And in fact, it's necessary, as I believe it was Frederick Douglass who said, "Without struggle, there's no progress." But we need to develop. That's why we need to develop competition for our people so they grow up. When we were small, we had like tap, we had marbles. All these things were competitive things that we competed with each other. We grew up now without that. What we got, we got one game there, Free Fire, where you pay money, you know, and you buy lives so that you go out and kill people or they kill you. And this is what we're promoting now. We listen to the songs. One song said, "One in the head, pussy wife after dead." This that one about killing, and so the artists are contributing to that. It's a lot more than just the guns what is developing the mindset and making
Yes.
people think that they can go out there and
Yes.
kill people and get away with it, and they are getting away with it because then the judiciary, the judicial system is failing us. They are not convicting the
Which is my
criminals,
beef.
But
and a lot of times they have the evidence right there, but they sacrifice truth at the altar of technicality.
Because the criminal is somebody's child or
Man,
somebody's
you can't
cousin
say
or
that,
somebody's
man.
uncle or
You can't
somebody's.
say that. That's not necessarily true.
Well, you
The
see, I
fact
don't
is-
want to hear where to say. Just deal with
I
the
didn't hear where
issue
you
as
said
it
that,
is.
but you cannot say that because you don't have the proof
No,
of
you-
that.
I can't say
think
nothing that
know.
you don't want to acknowledge because you don't know that it is such.
Neither
I
do
should
you,
have the right to
sir.
say what I think I believe and what I see and what I experience and
But
what I
see,
know.
if you're saying that
Mr.
on a
Chair.
forum, if you're saying that on a forum where four of us are basically responsible for that because we are promoting that.
For our own
But
thoughts, our own ideas. Yeah, that's true.
That there are things that
That's a fact.
you don't know though. You don't.
You might think that I don't know, and that's the contention here.
Well, if
When
you
I make some statements that you seem not to know or have
then
any knowledge
prove it.
about, you
Then
want to
prove it.
dispense with it,
no, I want you to prove it.
Mr. Holy Toledo.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
reference your point that music influences or reflects the behavior that we see. I would say that one can easily say that the artists are either a part of the drug culture and or they realize that they can manufacture music that reinforces the drug culture. And so I make the point that there's really no clear boundaries as to how far the drug culture goes. It encompasses art and it encompasses music, which are part of art, as well as there's an economic aspect to it. So I'm just saying that if you take away drugs and you take away guns, that's not going to solve the problem of people killing people. What it will do, it will significantly reduce the incidence.
But you
I think,
see,
man, you remember when the first murder took place, Mr. Chair?
you see
There
how
were no
you
guns
drop
around.
that,
There was no guns around when Cain killed Abel.
right?
So
So
it's a
I
part
mean,
of, it's a part of the human condition. It's a part of the human condition that we are murderers.
See, though, and you drop it and you run as if yes, that is so. You're saying that you think that the guys who sing this kind of songs are also involved in that, when they might
They're
just
glorifying the culture.
they
That's what the
might-
man say.
they might-
And that is a fact.
excuse me for speaking while I'm interrupting, but
Sorry, sir.
you
Go
know, I
ahead.
just listen. If you those artists might just be capitalizing on the opportunity to make money.
Yes, they
It's a
are.
matter
What
of
is-
demand and supply. They
Do you
know
know-
what the young people want to listen to. They and they have to put a little beat to it.
What-
But
Yeah.
that don't necessarily mean that they are a part of the drug culture.
The mindset.
But they are, Mr. Chair, if you look at this screen, you will
Apology.
see 4 sections to the screen. So I am saying that a
I know.
subset of the drug culture is the artist. Do you know who Robert Nesta Marley is, Mr. Chair?
Mhm.
I would
Of
hope
course,
so.
you know who Robert Nesta Marley is.
Right. So
Bob Marley is one of the progenitors of the
Uh-huh.
drug culture, but he's not the progenitor of the violent
no,
drug
he's
culture.
not. No, he's not.
He's a progenitor. He's
No,
a
he's
prolific
not.
use. He's a
No.
prolific user of marijuana.
No, so you're going off the cuff because
I'm
many
not going
people will
off the cuff.
argue. Maybe
I-
many people will
It's
argue that
not-
marijuana is not drugs. It's
It
not
is
a drug.
drugs. It is drugs, Mr. Chair.
That is
Read-
not clear.
Read your
That is
statutes. Read your
No.
statutes.
no.
Read
no,
your statutes.
No. What
If you are
statutes?
caught, if you are caught with a pound of weed, you'll be
It's
charged for
all
drug
right.
trafficking.
So it's classified as drugs.
Yes, but you are saying it is not, and I'm saying yes, it
It's
is.
not.
Legally,
You,
it is.
if you ask Bob Marley if marijuana is drugs, or Peter Tosh, or many people who smoke today, Bill Maher, who you listen to on a regular basis, with
Yes.
Willie Nelson, they will tell you marijuana is not drug; it's a natural substance.
But it's a drug.
That is
It's
you
a
saying that.
societal construct. No, it's embedded in your laws. It's embedded in your laws, Mr. Chair. This is not Alice in Wonderland, you know, Mr. Chair.
No.
not
But
Alice in Wonderland.
Of course, that's a different discussion, right? Because when you talk about drugs, it depends on who's defining as drugs.
That's what I'm saying.
Category 1, category 2, category 3, and so on and so forth. When in fact,
Mr.
some drugs are more deadlier than others.
Well,
Exactly, but drugs is not what you want it to be.
Now that they're
There are criteria
now that marijuana,
to define drugs.
let's say to get past that argument. Now that marijuana is legalized in many states in the U.S., can you still define it as drugs?
Chemically, it's a drug. Chemically, it's a drug. It's cannabis sativa L. It's a compound that
and there are many different variations of it.
But it's cannabis sativa L. That's the active ingredient.
Okay, argument. This will get us nowhere. This will get us nowhere.
No, Mr. Chair. You see, when we have a discussion and you do not agree, you grab up your marble during break time and you run inside. And you are left me now out here.
I don't
know. Why they try to take my marble?
There's a perspective.
We can stand and argue toe to toe. But if it gets to the point where we can't, it depends on a definition from either of us, then it makes no sense to have an argument with that.
No, it does. We have somebody named Mr. Webster, Mr. Oxford. Consult them.
But here we go now. You take the Leonard Brackett route that I read it somewhere, so that's so. If you argue that as far as whether marijuana is drugs or not, you can't come with no Marion Webster tell you that, or even some law write that as
Mr. Chairman,
that cannot.
Are you intimating that whether it is a drug or not is largely depending on whether it's legal or illegal?
That is what
I'm being technical, right?
That's what Mr. Mavid is saying.
No,
I asked you the question. I asked you the question. I posed the question to you because I understand what Mr. Mavid is saying.
My argument is just what you're saying. That just because you say it's legal or illegal, that's not what makes it a drug.
It's a drug because it's a drug. Whether it's legal or illegal is a different issue.
What is a drug? A drug is a mind-altering substance that is put into the human body.
That is comprised of different elements and whatnot. A marijuana plant grows from the earth. It's a natural plant.
What about wine?
It's still a drug.
What about wine? What about berries wine? Doesn't berries wine grow from the earth? Isn't cocaine grown from the earth?
Yeah.
What is your point, Mr. Chair?
No, cocaine is not grown from the earth. Cocaine
comes from the cocoa plant.
No, yes,
you have to process it. You have to process it. There's a difference.
It's a processing.
No.
Thank you.
No, you have to process cocaine. I
No,
won't get in the argument.
The processing is only to get it into powder form. So let's not go there either.
No, but there's a process. Marijuana, you don't have to do anything to smoke it and
but you
enjoy
don't
it.
have
People
to
are processing marijuana now
It's a natural herb.
into all different kind of liquids and all different kind of products.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Then
correct.
it's processed.
You see that same Coca-Cola that the chairman loves?
Uh-oh.
That Coca-Cola was infused with cocoa. And the problem began...
No Coke.
The problem, no, cocoa leaf. It began with the cocoa leaf. The problem began when Coca-Cola Corporation basically said that this thing is addictive. And if we purify it and we put it in tonical quantities, people could get hooked on Coke.
And they didn't want the recipe to be known by anybody.
The Indian who used to chew cocoa, they used to chew cocoa and it gave them a high, but it gave them a gentle high.
So
the point that I'm making is that when you
draw
the line at manufacturing, then
I wish you guys had
Mr.
just
Chair,
stick with. I wish we had just stick with weapons and instead of going off into this part because it's fruitless.
but we are.
You see my point,
But that is what's causing the problem in Belize, though, because we got too deep into this drug thing. And everybody the fight for the turf, and the killing started there, and then people became just immune to the killing, and then people started threatening eyewitness, and people started to do all kind of craziness and so on, and the system started to get hard and pulled by the liars who get the money from the drug dealers and drug users and drug sellers and whatever else not. And the whole damn thing became corrupted to the point now when we are suffering the consequences of the killing that's hurting so many families. We still don't want to believe that what caused us to get here is what caused us to get here because we can't prove it.
What about domestic violence? What about the killings that we have from domestic violence, which are many?
Yeah,
we have quite a bit. There are also other like drunkenness that causes killings. So my point is that you're looking at guns, you're looking at the cocaine and the drug trade, but that's not the reason for the killings. The killing is a mindset that a person develops that I will snuff out somebody else's life. What gives a person the right to do that? What kind of environment creates such a monster? Do you think, George?
A sense of impunity.
Well,
a sense that you not be held accountable and that
yeah.
So maybe then we come right back to the point of what kind of penalty then shall we hold for that to be a deterrent, correct. Not only a deterrent, but also a punishment for the crime that was committed.
Exactly.
But then when the police go and grab up my brother or my sister or my cousin with holla, all the police they abuse me.
Well, there's also a point that you cannot
and then
justify.
Sorry.
But you cannot justify police abuse by suggesting that we.
Which is happening too.
There are two different issues.
Yeah.
No, I'm just being facetious by saying that the parents or the family members then complain when the police go after them after the the main criminals. Then, in fact, as a matter of fact, even some of the criminals and the members of the police department and or some members of the police department have family members who are the criminals. I mean, it's a whole big wall of wax, which is why I stated that in the beginning of the conversation.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, can I challenge you to find a way for us to kind of move beyond this? Because I think the argument's going to get kind of circular. And I think that we have dealt with the issue of whether or not, the death penalty would be relevant. I don't know if we had a kind of vote of consensus on this panel of 4. You know what my position is? Yes, bring back the death penalty yesterday. So I don't know what your position is. I don't know.
I'm right there with you.
I won't
right there
accuse
with
you.
So.
I won't accuse you of gathering up your marbles either if we could decide.
No, Mr. Chair.
Let us be real here. Let me tell you.
The chairman will wait for that one, Mr. Marvin.
I'm trying to assist in the discussion.
He was being patient.
George, you really hurt the man.
You might have. What happened to you up on my side? But I got what you do. Damn. Listen.
I'm just telling you. You need to get back at him.
Yeah, listen.
Mr. Morrison couldn't resist, man.
Me and the chairman shares a lot in common.
You might have
one of them is what you call selective amnesia. I forget the chairman, and I know you have to get where I say in 10 minutes. Selective amnesia, chair. Can we move forward?
You said you didn't get my point of view on the matter. I am in favor of the death penalty as a last resort. Again, just as I am corporal punishment as a last resort, not as a first resort. I think, though, that once you have a person found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, then something must be done. Society owes it to itself to protect itself.
That's
against itself if it has to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
I believe in a much swifter justice than our system allows.
I believe. I agree.
Because by the time someone kills someone and they're getting the sentence is being carried out, 10 years have gone by. I'm looking for something that happens in a couple of years, the longest.
And you give these guys time to rub out their witnesses.
Yeah. I'm saying
a big part of the problem.
Yep.
Then you have what is known as disclosure, where the prosecution has to give to the defense everything what they got, including address
the
and
names.
identity of the witnesses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Something has to be done.
Yeah.
Why do we continue to knock our head against the wall?
Yeah.
We're not even trying to. Then we have these bleeding heart liberals who
No.
come in there with the and as Leonard is saying, indeed, then the ones who jump up and say, well, why you do that for? The man got rights. You have to consider rights. But what about rights of the society to survive in a peaceful manner? What about a
Exactly.
better
Exactly.
quality of life?
Yeah, yeah,
We need to look for those too, man. So
yeah.
anyway, guys, so
So all four of us are having a consensus on the same point, and Mr. Chairman, as far
Yeah,
as
I believe,
summarized just now.
that the justice system is weak and that it needs to be strengthened,
yeah,
and that we need to find ways to find people that are found guilty accountable. But one of the problems we have too is our legal system. It doesn't have the backbone to stand up against the lawyers that we see practicing in our country, for many reasons. Some is just that they're not seem like they're trained sufficiently, or they're just not capable, or
Money.
yeah, or what happens we see often is the evidence that the police had goes missing, or people get intimidated, like the chairman said, and threatened, and then they don't want to face the accuser, not the person that they're that committed the crime, because they fear for their own lives. So those are real issues within our legal justice system that needs to be addressed.
we'll see.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there's a person, Sam Dredd, stating here on the show, trying to get the attention, and he's stipulating that there are studies which show that the death penalty is not a deterrent. I beg to differ, because there are also other studies that show that it is a deterrent. So there's just an argument there, back and forward,
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. If a person kills another person and that person receives the death penalty, that
can't
is a
kill again.
deterrent for that person to kill again.
He won't be around to kill another one.
That person won't kill again. You see what I'm saying?
Do you know how many of our young people in Belize have killed multiple times and are ready for the next job?
Well, is there a morality issue? Yes, there is. The morality is that the human race has to continue. It has to ensure that the pieces are in place for it to continue, and in a reasonable way, in a way that the people do have a good quality of life, which includes safety. That one of the pillars of the foundation of society. Go ahead.
Can I go after you, Mr. Chairman?
You're going anyway. I can't stop you. I make a stop you.
At the point of being thought of as being maybe cruel or insensitive, or since I espouse Christianity as my basis for existing, what I'm about to say would probably be jumped on by a whole lot of people. But I don't think maybe members of the panel will probably jump on me other than Mr. Morrison.
Are you going to say it anyway?
Yes, that's what I was asking the chance to say it.
Well, God damn it, say it.
I believe that a deterrent is very necessary in any society, for that society to exist as a law and order society. And as far as I'm concerned, some people are given too much of a break after being found to have committed wanton crimes. My impression is that anybody who goes out and commit wanton crimes ought to suffer the consequences of, or the penalty of that crime. Of course, most people will say after being found guilty. If you commit the damn crime, whether you're found guilty or not, you have still committed the crime. And I have a problem with that in our society.
How are you on forgiveness?
I mean unforgiveness. Forgiveness no means you allow the man to get the chance to commit the crime over again, or wait till he commit the crime over again to say, well, I have to forgive him a second time.
No, but does not give
That's
him.
a difference. Forgiveness is forgiveness.
God deal with forgiveness for me.
I agree with you 98%, Mr. Brackett. except that you seem to be suggesting that if somebody is accused of killing, then you should deal with it forthright without due process.
No, I'm saying that the due process sometimes
is what-
it puts the law and the system on its head. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
Yes.
saying I'm agreeing with you what you're saying, but I'm also
All right.
stating that the law sometimes is being put on its head because of legal technicalities and lawyers, smart head liars who haul and pull the system and get people off when they are actually guilty.
Due process needs to happen because I go back to the point made by Mr. Morrison that in the adjustment that society needs to make, there has to be fine balances because as we know that a number of people have gone to the death penalty, they have suffered the consequences of the death penalty that were innocent, not only not guilty, but that were innocent. And you have to make sure
they were
that
reloaded.
the fix that happened does not allow this to continue to happen. You know, I think, and both.
But Mr. Marvitt, that is a conundrum, sir.
Sure, you guys will be able to school me on this. That in the United States there has been so much miscarriage of justice, especially against non-white citizens.
Yeah.
In relation to the death penalty.
You know, and you're bringing the United States. One lead thing back to the gun issue that has to be pointed out here too. With the United States and the Second Amendment, the guns were there in case they have to bring down unfair government, a government that's
no, that was not intended. That's how some people interpret it, but that was not the intention. The intention was to have enough support militarily wise that you can defend the country. It wasn't about.
It was to have
wait a minute. You don't know what you're talking about.
Leonard, it was to have a militia, and they suspect
what was the purpose of the militia, sir?
The militia was either to defend it from outside or from internal.
Keep the government in check.
Yeah.
No, that is what a lot of people are espousing. That was never the intent.
That was always the intent.
How can a government authorize its citizens to bring that government down when that government not follow the representation of the people's powers?
It is written in the Constitution.
That was the asinine.
It is written in the Constitution. It is the duty
of the
people.
It's misinterpreted. I'm telling you.
If a government
that's a big argument going on right now. A lot of people are, and that's the reason why you have these people. Okay.
If a government is not.
That's your interpretation of it, Leonard.
No, sir.
That's your interpretation.
I think we digress.
No, sir.
I think we digress, and I am threatening to grab up my marbles and encourage the chairman to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need you need to do some research into that one and stop.
That is, sir. That is why them people have that kind of thing right now with the militia. Them wanting to take over the government by force and by power. They could never have the kind of weapons where the government have at its disposal. They have tanks. The government have tanks. They got warplane. They have. Then that's why they try run on. They want to take over the country. You know.
Do some research.
They have oh man, make a shut up.
Yes. That would be a good idea because on that point you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And you know what? I don't know that anybody can be smart. I don't
good
know.
Luck.
I don't know. Will you shut up? I don't know if anybody. I don't know if anybody can be as smart as you think you are. I don't know that's possible.
That is your problem, not mine. Mr. Chairman, that is your problem, not mine, sir.
You've spoken.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
What are the three things that you would like to see change in Belize for 2023?
Boy, that interesting, and to just throw that on me like that, I would want to think about it, but right off of the top of my head, I'd like to see UNCAP being implemented. I'd like to
UNCAP. Yeah, that's my number one.
United Nations Convention Against Corruption. I'd like to see that be implemented for finally in a full way, where we get outside help to solve many of these crimes that we have going on, in particular with government officials.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Maybe we need a militia type group here, or ad hoc at least committee to keep these people in check. But that would be one. I'd like to see sports introduced into education and become an integral part of education. I will reserve the other one until I can think of it some more. But certainly 3, Yeah, I'm sure we could all come up with more than that, but yeah, those are two prime ones. Are we gonna go around with that, or just me?
I think we should, but in a very succinct way. The only other one that I would add in the interest of time is the reform of the Constitution. So constitutional reform. I will close off there. I don't want to go further than just to add to the two that you said, UNCAC and then constitutional reform.
May I go before Mr. Morrison?
I don't think there's anything wrong with our constitution. They're a little bit on the edges we need to fix to take away some of the things that the same politician created mischief with by authorizing themselves to stop other members from crossing the floor when they're in opposition. And also the limits they put where they give themselves the full authority. I can't even think of the word right now, Leonard.
The minister's discretion.
Discretion.
Ministerial discretion.
Yeah.
And that's
governed by ministerial fiat.
It's a part of the reform process. But I didn't want to get into an argument because I know we are winding down to the end.
Yeah.
You know.
Can I take a shot, Mr. Chairman? I think I'm the only one left.
I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
I'm not. If you don't concede or accede or agree, I'm not.
No. You're not the only one left because Greg didn't.
Well, Mr. Mavitt and then Mr. Morrison went, and I think you had started it.
Mr. Morrison didn't go. What Mr. Morrison did was just
go ahead. I understand.
On Mr. Mavitt's point that
in the interest of time. I thought he said in the interest of time.
No. Mr. Mavitt said, stay with me. Mr. Mavitt said that he thinks the political reform should be thrown in there also. And Mr. Morrison said he doesn't think there's anything very wrong with the Constitution that would need reforming as such. So that was what Mr. Morrison said. But if you can go, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. But try to.
Well, I was letting you continue exercising your prerogative as a chair.
Just make your point. I mean,
to filibuster me.
Talk about filibuster, boy. I think that might be your objective, is to just talk until everybody else shut up. But yeah, man.
Just tell me when you're ready, I go though.
I wait if you notice.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, I will agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I will agree with you. My number one would be the implementation of UNCAC full bore, with no kind of limitations and no kind of games on the edges, as I would suspect and believe other people want to do. Secondly, the Constitution. I'm adamantly against this idea of wholesale messing around with our current Constitution, because what does our current Constitution stop any of our past government from rendering us better services than they have done before? What part of our Constitution they would have needed to have changed for them to have given us better governance? So the idea of them at this point, because long before they decided that they wanted to do this constitutional reform stuff, I was arguing about it, I was posting about it, I was blogging about it, I was talking to people about it, and bam, it showed up. And they're going full bore right now, and I can tell you, all the effort of Mr. Mavitt and all his other colleagues that are members of this panel, at the time when this thing is finally put to the House, it would have been dealt with by other people, like what we'd call the legal draft person, and a whole lot of other people that would come in and put and stipulate certain wordings and so on that will just negate the whole purpose of what the intent was. The intent should be to make our Constitution a bit better and to have us get better governance out of our Constitution and better societal successes and protection through our Constitution. I'm afraid that's not what we're going to end up with, and for that reason, I object vehemently for the process.
May I ask you a question?
Besides the point that messing with our Constitution is only to enable or to dispense with the protections that the Constitution affords us, whether as opposition and or as government or as people or plebiscite as a whole. My point third point would have been the economics of the country. Our governance in the country is stifling the economic well-being of our country. And those three items are the three items that I would like to see dealt with as quick as possible.
Speaking of the Constitution, are you saying that you don't think that's what the objective is, or you don't think that's what we're going to end up with? Which is the better
We're going to end up with a different product than what is being put out there. In other words, we are being it's like rats. We are being treated like rats. A little cheese is put out there that they know we don't like, and we are run after, while the agenda they actually have in mind, will become, because the eyes will have it at the end of the day, regardless of.
Are you sure? Are you sure there's an agenda at foot, or
you want me to prove it too, right?
Or do you think? Or do you think that
Mr. Chairman, you're the mess with me, man. You're the mess with me.
You
want me to prove that too, right?
Do you think there's a genuine intent to better the Constitution with this exercise?
It's about playing with the Constitution to enable the achievement of a goal that was set many decades ago.
And you
this is just the next iteration of that process.
Okay? Are you pretty sure of that?
That much I'm sure of, as much as I'm sure that I'm still alive now.
All right.
The problem I have, let me just say this, because you sit on the commission, Mr. Myvin. The problem I have with the Constitution Reform and Committee is that we know nothing about what the objectives are. They should have identified for us what were the issues, and they have put it that the whole Constitution is now up for grabs, and that changes will happen everywhere, anywhere, and we don't even know what the goal of the committee is, other than whether it's to rewrite the new and give us a new Constitution, or whether it's to just fix some issues that we identified.
Well, you have just qualified the core of your concern, which is you don't know. And
they should have let us know. They should have.
They will let you know
when it's too late.
What I will say to you is that the philosophical construct behind it is that the Belize needs to decolonize.
Mr. Myvin, I can't let you get away with that one, sir. I can't. I have to jump in on top of you. I have to disabuse you of that thought and that statement. Can I be allowed to do that?
Well, you could disabuse me, sir. We are always colleagues on this panel, and we have been accused of collusion.
Taking your marbles?
You like that one, sure?
Go ahead. You're
taking away something from tonight. And
decolonization. You see, I'm afraid.
Mr.
I was
Myvin,
afraid to go into a whole dissertation on these issues.
No.
We could come back next week and deal with the Constitution,
But
on that point, I don't want a point to get foggy in my mind or in my head.
We should.
I want to deal with that point because it's very salient, and I've heard that point raised over and over by a lot of influential people in our society who should know better and who should be the vanguards of the preservation of our society.
The point is what, and what do you object
to?
The point? What do you object to?
Little do most people who espouse that thought realize that they're lending aid and abetment to the goals and aspirations of our mortal enemy, Guatemala, and their supporters who are trying to get us Belizeans to buy into this situation where we will be pointed out as being culpable for our own demise. Okay?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You have very strong views, but they are not necessarily valid.
Everybody's entitled to their views, sir. I could disagree with your views, but I can't make you not have them.
The boy
I'm not abusing you by making that statement.
He take his argot and lash you in your head side with it.
I didn't do that, Mr. Brackett.
Is that what you call a backhand compliment?
You see?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, but Mr. Myvin,
I hope I'm alive long enough to see the end of the process.
Hey man, I hope
it should be concluded in 18 months.
All right. Now, the colonization thing though has nothing to do with
Decolonize. The
The
construct of
That is the purpose for messing with our constitution. They're trying to they're trying to
what does that have to do?
eviscerate anything that has to do with the British who are protecting us and have protected us and trying to get us to malign the British to the point where the British are just to hell with you and just walk away and Guatemala will just have it way with us. Because we have America will not protect us from the Guatemalans.
But you
That's
made your
If you look at the Webster proposals,
You
That
made
is-
your
that
point.
is a
You
no,
made
no,
your
if you look at the heads of agreements,
Bracket.
if you look at the
Bracket, you made your point. You made
Okay.
your point.
Okay.
That point is clear. But Myvid, how do you counter that? Why? How do you say? How can you confirm and convince us that
Let me
this
get to the issue.
exercise? What is this constitutional exercise about? And
It's
has it?
basically,
I think he already got brainwashed,
basically saying,
decolonized.
Mr. Chair,
no, Mr. Marvitt is under secrecy act.
But Mr.
He's under
Brackett,
secrecy act, and
Development
he cannot
Board,
dispel certain things.
he
okay?
jumped right in before I could.
Well, because they're trying, they are
Remember
treating
the
you like
governance,
if they don't
there's
know
a
that you are.
conclusion to my discourse. And
Go
all
ahead,
that I
sir. I'm
did
sorry.
was the premise.
I'm sorry. Please
I did
accept my
not develop
apology.
the body of it. So to the chairman's point, when I say decolonize, we will all agree that Belize was a protectorate and a colony of Great Britain.
Right.
At our request.
It means that the
Hope you
governance
remember that.
structure.
But Bracket, would you
And
let
it's-
the man speak? I want to hear what he
Mr. Chairman, make the man finish, Mr. Chairman.
It
Hold on,
means
Mr.
it
Chairman.
means that the legal instrument that governs our governance of this country is not in our interest. It's in the interest of Britain. If you look at the Belize Constitution, it's basically a mirror image of what they
That's
did throughout the
nonsense, man.
Caribbean.
What are we giving to Britain?
But
What are we
wait,
giving
man,
to-
you are asking me a question,
but
and I
we
am
have to
saying
make sense, man.
no,
What- the
no.
only thing-
But
the only
it
thing-
is
wait,
wait,
the only
man,
thing we
wait.
give it to them-
Hold on, Mr. Chair. Can I finish?
No,
Yeah,
no,
but, yeah,
no,
but
no,
Judge.
Can I
Let's-
finish?
yeah, but let's be real.
No,
You
no,
can't
no, no,
drop
no, man.
thing. You can't
You're
just
asking
drop
me,
thing and
and
run
I'm saying
past
to
it.
you,
No,
Yeah,
no. When
but
you
I'm
drop
not running
things,
past. He's interrupting
yeah,
me.
you drop
I
thing
am
and run
saying-
past
the
it, and
only
then we have to
thing-
I'm
accept
not
it as
running
fact.
past. But
The
I
only
am not.
thing we
Wait, man.
No,
All
no,
right.
let me just finish
Mr.
one
Chair,
point.
can I finish, no, man?
Oh, I'll make you finish everything. Give me 1 second.
I know
The
I'll
only-
finish.
The only thing
Go
we
ahead.
give to Britain, is allow them to have land in Belize right now that they're not paying taxes on, and we need to address that. And that could be addressed by our own government, and they
yeah,
refuse to do that.
There is more than that, sir. You know who the head of state of Belize is?
That doesn't
The head of
mean
state-
anything. That doesn't mean
The head of-
anything.
But wait, man. I am trying to.
Are we, Mr. Marvitt, are you encouraging us to become seditious
Well, hold on. Make the man finish your point.
against the head of state?
Please make the man finish your point.
What I am saying is that let me equate this to an individual. You grow up in your parents' their house. At some point, you become independent, and at some point, you begin to make your own decisions. All that we are saying is that we have gotten independence. The motherland has said to us, "You are independent." But what they have done to us, that they have given us the same old constitution that they have given everybody to make sure that we are still subjects of the British Crown. What
George.
we are saying now is that the time has come for us to write our own script. That is all this is.
George, I've always felt that maybe we can be more unique and individual. But you know
Yeah.
what? Let's be quite clear. We
Yeah.
have a hostile neighbor that
Yeah.
is claiming our country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We mano y mano cannot stand an hour or maybe a few minutes before Guatemala's might. We need friends like Britain.
Yeah.
Britain, I don't see.
I do not want to decolonize my constitution at this point.
I'm saying the Constitution is a lot of cut and paste, indeed.
Yes,
And
it
but
is.
a lot of things that have come even way back from the Magna Carta, Barnaby's Code. A lot of it has come together to create a constitution that is not perfect. Let's put it that way. But I don't see anything so terrible wrong with it. That is what causing our problems.
Exactly.
The Constitution is not
but
what's
Mr.
allowing
Chair-
corruption to continue. It's the
Mr.
laws of
Chair-
the land that aren't. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, you seem to be equating the reform of the Constitution with a slap in the face of Great Britain, which it is not.
You
Then-
said it
but
was
you-
decolonizing.
Yeah, you said
What
that.
I'm saying, No.
That sounds like a brainwash thing from directly from the mouth of the
You
Kusenia government.
you want to remove the Queen. You want to remove
No,
the
I
Queen
don't
from the
want
money?
to. I
Okay.
don't want to, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I am saying that the process is that there's a public consultation, and that public consultation would accommodate public input. And if the public is saying we want King Charles to continue to be the head of state, that will be the order of the day.
Mr. Marvitt, Mr. Marvitt, do you understand? I know ask some question. I'll make a statement better.
Right.
When the Constitution says that the government must consult with the public,
Yes.
they're not talking about the shenanigan consultations where these guys then go on and sit down with a few of their one party members and have the consensus of their one party members and put it forward to the general public
Who
as
are
the
these
consensus.
guys?
He has
What
a
the
point.
Constitution, no, wait,
Who are
please
these
listen to me.
guys?
He has
What
a
the
point.
Constitution is intimating is that when you have a consultation with the public must have its say.
Yes.
You're talking
That's
about a
exactly what I
referendum,
said.
sir.
That
That's
is
what the
I said.
Constitution is intimating.
Yes.
Let the public have its say, let a referendum, and let the people speak. Let you have a plebiscite, and therein lies the problem that the present government and the past government and all previous government that I'm
It is not a
pointing out
problem.
has
It is not
not
a problem.
followed the Constitution, but they claim that it's the Constitution that is stopping them from giving us better governance. It's a
Can
bunch
I-
of hogwash.
Can I input here?
Yes,
There's
sir.
a process,
Yes, sir. Very
and the
much.
process goes that
Yes,
there
sir.
shall be a consultation so that we can gather the input of the public. There shall also be, you call it a plebiscite, there shall also be a referendum that the people will have the final say. So
But
what you're
George,
seeing is a ghost
Like they did in the last referendum that we had.
not a ghost in the
They
machine.
bamboozled the public,
It's a part
and
of
then
the
now they turn
process.
around and say, well, that we blame because we decide to go.
Leonard, you just had a long say, man.
Yes,
You
sir.
just
Yes,
had a
sir.
long-
Okay, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. Please, let me continue.
No,
You
Marvin,
are prejudging,
I got your point.
You are prejudging, Mr. Brackett, you are prejudging a process and an outcome that has not even happened yet.
but no, hold on,
I know you're
Judge.
skeptical.
Hold on, Judge. In fairness, we don't even know what outcome is about to happen.
But Leonard is prematurely
No,
disappointed in the
but
outcome.
then you are in a
is.
position to be able to let us know.
But you know how I roll, Mr. Marvin. You know how I roll.
But Mr. Brackett,
I don't roll only on public evidence or only on the thing that is currently on the
he's
news.
abusing me. He's not disabusing me. He's abusing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I shouldn't. Far from wanting to do that.
And I'm trying to educate, not from a kind of top
Yes,
down,
sir.
but
Sorry.
to say to you that there's a lot that you guys may not know
Make my leave.
that I know because I'm a part of the process.
Yeah, they sound like,
And the
you
process
sound like
basically
bracket now.
says-
Yeah, they sound like bracket now. There's a lot. Yeah.
I didn't expect that to
All
come
this
from you.
secrecy and clandestine foolishness
No,
got me
no,
nervous,
no,
my
Mr.
boy.
Chair. I'm
I'm
a part
feeling,
of the process.
Yes,
I'm
all right.
trying to educate you guys,
I'm-
to inform you.
I'm feeling demeaned by all these knowledgeable
You
people.
know what I'm
that-
saying?
on
And
the
I don't know
committee
nothing. And I don't know
getting
nothing.
classified information.
This
I
is
don't-
where
I-
they say.
I don't know what's going on now.
Yeah, I'm lost. I'm lost
But I
myself.
said to you that there's a process of consultation.
George, what's the ultimate goal?
The
what
ultimate
are-
goal, the
Uh-huh.
ultimate goal. Remember, Mike, and remember, gentlemen, that the Constitution is a vehicle that should deliver the goals and aspiration of the people and nation of Belize.
Oh man, they
What
sound
they're
like they
saying,
brain.
but the
George,
people-
sound like they brainwash you, man. What paper are they giving you to read?
The people should have the final say. What
Sure.
problem do you have with that?
George, I don't have a
The people
problem with
have
that.
the
But
final
it's-
How can you present such a fallacious? How can you ask me? Well, what problem can you have with that? That as if that somehow certifies what you're saying. No,
No, Mr. Chair.
And you say something. You say something that's an obvious truth. Yes, the people ought to have a say. Yes,
Yes,
people
they'll
ought
have
to
the final say. Not
they
a say,
have
the
to
final
determine.
say.
But
The people have the final say.
Yes, so but then you're not going to the people yet. You're going to a room full of and if we're to listen to what Greg is saying, brainwash
Well,
people that
hello,
has
Greg.
already have been
but
instructed.
I think
where-
the first person that got brainwashed was George.
But Greg, Greg is operating on false assumptions.
Oh.
And I don't mean this in an unkind way, but I'm simply saying that
it sounded unkind.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I have to apologize copiously.
It's that backhand compliment again.
You're gonna need therapy after
I
this.
didn't put it in an unkind way. But I am in a more informed position in that I'm closer to the process. That's all I am saying.
Leonard, he's stealing your line, Leonard. Don't let him do that, Leonard. Don't let him come up as he's the bright cookie in his jar.
Right?
Pretty soon, Leonard will
A lot of what you're seeing as red flags
Leonard himself,
are really white flags. They're really white flags. These are not red flags. They are white flags. This is peace. This is peace. This is commitment. This is commitment to the greater good.
Wow.
I don't know why you guys are seeing.
George,
being skeptical.
George, you better stop.
You're getting in trouble, Judge, when you
better
say
stop, man.
when you come with your decolonization, obviously, and you lend credence to Leonard Brackett's theory that he's suggesting you guys have an agenda, and a part of it is to remove England from the equation, which will set the stage for Guatemala to do what they want to do. I'm there with you on that one, Brackett. You take long to tell me, but you tell me.
That thought, I have to disabuse you from that. I did not suggest that we would alienate Britain. All I am saying is that we will craft our own destiny. That's all I am saying.
And you who can't even fight crime or corruption will come up with that? How are you going to do that, sir?
But Mr. Chair, are you suggesting that we are not truly independent or we shouldn't be independent?
We don't. Nobody will ever be independent. There's no independent as such. We're all interdependent. All of us in this, every country in the world, we trade with each other. We're interdependent.
Yes. But politically independent, are you suggesting that we shouldn't be politically independent in terms of having?
We already are. We are. But we are independent.
No, but you are saying that
whatever degree we can be.
You are saying that this constitutional reform is designed to throw Britain under the bus.
No, you said it. You basically
That's what you said. That's what you said.
I said that.
Yes,
you said
you did.
Decolonize.
Yes,
Decolonize us and.
But decolonization doesn't mean that you will throw Britain under the bus. We are simply saying that we are moving forward
to get rid of the
on parallel tracks. We are moving forward on parallel tracks. Britain has its own destiny, and Belize has its own destiny. But the two of them are not mutually exclusive. Britain can be happy, and Belize can be happy. That's all I am saying. It's not one or the other.
So Leonard, we are not happy because of our constitution. The crime is because of our constitution.
The corruption
is because of our current constitution.
No, it is not.
The racism is because of our constitution.
No, well, it may be. Let me look at this one, for example. One of the issues that we have is that Leonard is talking, but his mic is off. One of the issues
that's good. That's good.
That means I don't know. That means I don't know. Last out some valuable information.
And you gonna complain? Oh, please. No wonder we can't trust you, the Constitution.
This is too much fun. This is too much fun. But on a serious note, I want to say.
I never realize that.
Perhaps we should hold this. We should have the next session on the Belize Constitution.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir,
may I have a say, sir?
We were over
all the while about 30 minutes at this last conversation that you guys been having. My mic was off. I turned it off because I didn't want it to be disturbing, and instead I was unable to contribute and not realizing that I wasn't contributing. But anyhow, I was just talking okay, like I said earlier, I don't miss nothing, which means that we never got enriched with additional knowledge. We don't have the same knowledge what we have when we start the program tonight.
You never get enriched with that knowledge, you try and enrich with that.
Anyhow, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to make give me the contribution. No, sir, thank you. What I was trying to say or intimating is that Belize is an independent country. But a lot of people don't realize that we are an independent country and our independence is a conditional independence. Okay? And there's a reason why we allow that to be, just like the chairman had intimated a little earlier, that we have a mortal enemy to our south and west. that under no circumstance, no care what the ICJ says, will never cease and desist messing with us.
I wouldn't
But
go to
but
far.
but
I
we
wouldn't be so-
the
I
agenda,
wouldn't be so-
Mr. Chairman,
No,
Mr.
but
Chairman,
you
I want to give you an answer to a question that you
can't drop
posed.
that, though.
You
can't
ask,
drop
you
that
ask,
like
Mr.
that.
Chairman, you ask a question. What is the agenda that I keep referring to? That these people have up their sleeve. The present PUP government is only attempting to complete what past PUP government was not able to succeed in completing.
No go there. No go there.
Let me finish my statement. It's not going to be long. What is being attempted right now is to get us a little closer to a Central American Republic of Belize. Okay? And that is the agenda that is behind the whole scene that most people are not aware of, and that we are being spoon-fed with all this kind of other stuff to keep us off track, or in other words,
All
look
right,
here,
Leonard,
no look
all
there.
right. You make your
Leonard,
point. You
Leonard,
make your point, but listen to
let
me.
me ask one question.
Where are we? Where are we located geographically, Leonard?
We're in Central America. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
So,
We're not a republic, are we?
No, that
Let me
don't
ask
mean
one
nothing.
No. Are we a republic?
Are we not in Central America?
You're stating the obvious. I'll do like you know. I use back when I was saying things by you. You're stating the obvious, and I just had replied to it. That is that we are in Central America. But are we a republic? That's the part that everybody want to glaze over or pretend that they don't got no sense of what is happening. Our country is being converted into a republic right before our eyes.
And George is part of that conspiracy.
I'm glad I don't nobody pick for me and I learn how to pick for.
Actually, you this a carom shot. When Greg threw anything over there, that day the corner. Why I tell you though, the constitutional reform, we want to discuss that. I believe we could agree that we'll look upon that next week. I would hope, though, George, I would hope you would come with an agenda to satisfy Leonard's curiosity.
Can I suggest, Mr. Chair, that in relation to a previous show that we did on the Belize economy, give me 3 minutes to make a presentation on what the reform is all about, what the process is, and what the anticipated outcome would be before people jump in feet first.
All right, we'll do that. And in fact, for those 3 minutes, you're sure 3 minutes enough?
5 minutes.
Well,
5 minutes would be.
But maybe 5. But I just want to say
that five will be magnanimous.
No, what we'll do? No. Here's what we'll do. We'll mute our mics, myself included.
I don't want, when you say mute just now, I look down for mine because I don't wonder if I know how to mute again.
All right. We will
half an hour. Man, I missed out.
We will mute our mics at the beginning of the next show for 5 minutes. We don't want to ask everybody try to be on time though, so we can maximize the time that we have following this 5 minutes. And George, we'll ask you to set your time. 5 minutes. I mean, 5 minutes should be enough for you to give a good summary of what you guys are planning to do. What are the key objectives?
Mr. Chairman, try not get the man in a trouble. I mean, the way you stipulated that statement just now could be problematic for him. They could kick him out of the committee for that, you know.
We not ask the man to give us none of the private, undisclosed thing that.
No, the way the chairman made the statement is what I'm.
Yeah. No.
You know, the way he stated
I can't disclose anything.
George is smart. We don't want him to go to jail.
I can't disclose anything that is confidential.
George is not only smart, George is brilliant, and he's been whipping that on us. Actually, but with the constitutional reform, he can't touch Leonard. Leonard get over the barrel.
You mean the cover? Are you talking about the cover, Mr. Chairman?
The man got we good, man. We good. Listen, it's after 9 o'clock, people. It's been an entertaining 2 hours. Again, whether I have to admit it or not to you, Leonard, you do say things that I learned from. I find that most of it I have to go re-Google, but I do that.
I wouldn't depend on Google, sir.
The man always
that I would try to advise you.
Next argument, because
I make certain statements like then they come off of Google. Google might have some information, but there are other sources as well, you know.
You know more than Google. I ask you a question, plain straight. You know more than Google.
Do you understand how Google is put together, sir?
Let's say we have to go
Seriously, seriously.
I
No, I mean, you ask me a question like that.
no,
Google
but
is put together by other people's mind and other people's knowledge.
right. So
Okay,
what are you
and
saying?
there's no one human being, or even a group of human beings that could aggregate all the knowledge that what the world have. Google is doing the best at it.
I think in defense of Leonard, I would say that Google is not the place that you want to go to write an informed thesis on. It's just a bunch of general knowledge to get you a general, a sort of rounded.
Well, where do you start then? Where do you start? Isn't that a good place
Google
to research? Don't you do? You would not recommend Google for research?
No.
I would recommend
I
Google
didn't-
as
I wouldn't say that
introduction
either.
to a topic.
No.
Right.
I would not recommend Google, for example, to teach you anything about the Belize Constitution. It will
No.
speak generally of what Constitution should be, but it would not go into details about the Belize Constitution is.
Yeah.
And I think that may be the point that Leonard is saying, that you have
Amen.
to understand the limitations of Google.
Yeah.
I think that was the point that he was making.
Yeah.
I think that Google always has another step that has to be taken by the individual that's doing the research. It does
Right.
open doors to you to some things that you would not ordinarily have access to.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. And when I go, I don't go there as an end all for my knowledge. I go there for a starting step.
So if you say that you're a Google expert, in a sense, it's almost a non sequitur, because you can be an expert by accessing Google.
Hold up, let me go to Google to find out what secretary means. Listen, fellas.
A non sequitur.
Yeah.
Where the premise does not, where the conclusion does not
It
follow
does
the
not
premise.
follow. It does not follow the
Does
premise.
not follow the premise.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are you saying now? Say it again, though.
But Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Marvitt, didn't I got beat up just now for trying to disabuse you of that same position?
Yes, but the chairman
Things that didn't add up.
The chairman is an equal opportunity abuser. He abused you and he abused me. So, hello.
You say Google is a non sequitur. You
No,
say-
I said that.
No.
I said that. What I said is that proposing or propounding that you are an expert based on Google is a non sequitur, because you cannot be an expert based on Google, because Google is limited. So the premise that you're an expert because you're on Google is a non sequitur.
Boy,
The conclusion does not follow the premise.
In other words, Mr. Chairman, Google is just for general knowledge purposes, as you yourself stipulated.
Well, I don't know where we get to it, because who made the point that that they were
No,
Google
you were
experts?
saying that you was on Google, that you get your information from Google.
Yeah, but I didn't
At
say
one
that
point.
I was a Google expert.
At one point.
I get information.
We all
from
get information from Google, but it
I would
cannot be
think-
the final conclusion of
That's
what
what
our
I'm
knowledge
saying, but
base is going to be.
and it always a step short, which the next step.
No,
is
Mr.
for
Chairman
you.
made a mistake by trying to say that I was trying to be better on Google, and that way he kind of
Yeah, he was
he
trying to
intended to
abuse
put his
you.
toe in the water, but then ended up with the whole leg.
He was trying to abuse you, but I attempted to disabuse him.
Thank you, Mr. Marvitt, for coming to my rescue.
Folks, thank you guys for being here tonight.
Wait, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, you said that we were on for a little over 2 hours. I recall that we had started out or intended to start out the programs with a 1 hour length. How did we end up with 2 hours plus? I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I mean, I'm not complaining.
Our conversation have always been 2 hours.
Leonard, I think you
in an hour.
Leonard, I can see you standing and arguing with a signpost. No, it's not stopped. It cannot be stopped. It is not
Sir,
stopped.
why,
No,
Mr.
that's
Chairman?
not-
But why wouldn't I do that if the signpost is wrong? If somebody gone and tamper with it and turn it the wrong way, and I know in my head that coordinate not correct,
But Mr. Chairman,
I would have to be a fool or an idiot to just follow it, you know.
Mr. Chairman,
Anyhow, catch it up.
Mr. Chairman, Leonard always talk for at least an hour.
Uh-oh.
I think that's why the program. I think
No,
that's
no,
why
no,
the
that-
program
that-
So
goes
we
for 2
need,
hours.
so we need 2 hours. So the rest of us can
Mr. Merson, that wasn't true today. That wasn't true today. I last out at least a half an hour with my mic muted.
And we were quite pleased. We were
That's
wondering
true.
what happened to you.
That's true.
You might have lost. You might have lost out, but we gained.
You didn't. That is what I was saying to you. You didn't gain the knowledge that you could have gained
What
over that
knowledge?
half an hour.
What knowledge? We went to Google and got it. Gentlemen, have a nice evening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Pleasant
Thank
good
you.
night.
See why we respect every time, people.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Enough love.
Good night.
Nice program. Enjoyed it. I laughed a lot though.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Oh,
Sure.
yes,
Yeah. Good night, guys. Good night. Good night. Good night.